Have you ever wondered why the strongest men, the true leaders, are often isolated, misunderstood, and even feared? The answer is simple. Greatness creates distance, and in this distance lies both power and survival. A chosen man must not expose himself to too many hands, too many voices, or too many loyalties. The crowd admires you when you shine, but envies you when you rise. To walk alone is to reduce the daggers at your back. When we speak of betrayal, most imagine the enemy, the rival, or the open opponent. But in truth, betrayal rarely comes from those who stand against you in daylight. It comes from those closest to you, those who walk beside you, those who smile while secretly plotting your fall. A chosen man, if he truly seeks to rise, must understand that the more people he allows near his heart, the more doors he opens for treachery to enter. History itself whispers this lesson. Kings who trusted too many advisors found themselves poisoned. Generals who leaned too heavily on their captains saw rebellion grow within their own camp. Even men of philosophy and art, when surrounded by flatterers and companions, discovered that the greatest wounds are not struck by the stranger's blade, but by the familiar hand. The chosen man, therefore, does not despise others, but he does not surrender himself to them. He knows admiration can quickly turn to jealousy, and jealousy is the mother of betrayal. Those who praise your success today may be the very ones to conspire against you tomorrow. And why? Because your rise reminds them of their fall. Your strength exposes their weakness. Your independence casts light on their dependence. It is a cruel truth. The higher you climb, the more you become a mirror in which others see their failures. At first, they may cheer your ascent. They may call you great, even chosen. But deep within, they whisper, "Why not me?" That whisper festers, and what begins as admiration soon turns to resentment. This is why the chosen man must walk alone, because trust without limit is the soil where betrayal grows. But solitude is not just a shield, it is also a test. When you walk alone, you learn to rely on your own strength. You strip away the comfort of constant voices, constant approval, constant presence. And what remains is sharper, stronger, harder to break. The chosen man does not run from solitude. He uses it to build a fortress within himself. For the man who can stand alone cannot be cornered, cannot be manipulated, cannot be destroyed by those who would betray him. Consider the nature of loyalty. Men are loyal not to you, but to their own needs. They follow while you feed them, while you serve their desires, while your path aligns with their hunger. But when your purpose no longer serves theirs, loyalty fades like smoke in the wind. To depend entirely on such fragile loyalty is to invite disaster. Solitude, then, becomes the discipline that protects you. It reduces the number of hands that can turn against you. It silences the voices that pretend friendship but plot in whispers. And yet, do not mistake solitude for isolation of mind. The chosen man observes others. He studies them. He may even use them. But he does not give them the keys to his soul. He keeps the inner chamber locked, for he knows that the moment he hands it to another, he has given them the power to destroy him. To walk alone is to walk with wisdom, knowing that every bond carries risk, and that risk multiplies with every person allowed too close. Think of it this way: the lone wolf may seem vulnerable, but he is safer than the wolf who trusts the wrong pack. For betrayal from within is more deadly than any attack from without. The chosen man embraces solitude because it reduces these dangers. It is not cowardice. It is not weakness. It is the strategy of one who knows that the fewer who walk beside you, the fewer who can stab from behind. So when others wonder why you keep your distance, why you do not open every door, why you do not embrace every hand, let them wonder. They will never understand that the chosen man walks a path where betrayal is always near, waiting for the moment of weakness. And the only true defense is to walk with caution, to keep your circle small, and when necessary, to walk entirely alone. The masses cannot see beyond today. Their fears and their desires blind them to the horizon. They are chained to the present moment, and because of this, they cannot imagine what lies beyond it. The chosen man, if he is to lead, cannot allow himself to be buried in the noise of the crowd. He must rise above them, not only in power, but in perspective. Vision demands distance, and only in solitude can he see what others are too distracted to notice. Consider the common man. His days are spent chasing comfort, avoiding hardship, feeding his desires as they arise. He is not concerned with what tomorrow will bring, for his world is bound by what he can touch and consume today. But a man destined for greatness does not have that luxury. He cannot see only what is near, because the near blinds him to the far. He must step back. He must walk apart. He must distance himself from the chaos of voices so that his own mind can pierce the fog of the present and glimpse the shape of the future. When a chosen man remains too close to the masses, he risks becoming like them. Their fears become his fears, their distractions become his distractions, and slowly his vision narrows until he too can see only what is right in front of him. This is why the leader who mingles too freely, who shares in every feast and joins in every cry of the crowd, begins to lose the clarity that once set him apart. He becomes trapped in the same blindness he was meant to rise above. To preserve his vision, he must create distance. He must walk a path not walked by many, so that his eyes can remain sharp where theirs grow dull. Think of the general who stands upon a hill while his soldiers clash below. From the ground, the men see only the enemy before them, the sword aimed at their chest, the chaos at their feet. But from the height, the general sees the battlefield in full. The flanks, the movements, the weaknesses, the opportunities. It is not because he is stronger that he sees more, but because he has removed himself from the struggle of the moment. So it is with the chosen man. He sees not only the strike of today, but the war of tomorrow. He sees not only the momentary gain, but the lasting consequence. And this sight is granted only to those who dare to stand apart. Distance grants clarity, but it also demands sacrifice. To walk apart from the crowd is to accept that you will be misunderstood. The masses do not forgive those who refuse to think as they think. They will call you arrogant for not joining them, cold for not embracing them, even cruel for not comforting them. They will despise your distance because it reveals their blindness. Yet it is in this very separation that your vision sharpens. You must be willing to endure their hatred, for their hatred is proof that you see what they cannot. The chosen man must also recognize that the crowd will always be impatient. They want results now, rewards now, answers now. But the man of vision knows that the greatest victories require time, patience, and planning. He knows that rushing into action without foresight is the surest path to ruin. And so he resists the pressure of the crowd, their demands for immediacy, their cries for haste. He walks alone so that he is not drowned by their urgency, so that he can think, plot, and move according to his own design rather than their hunger. The masses will never understand this kind of foresight, for their lives are chained to the immediate. They live in fear of tomorrow because they cannot prepare for it. They live in resentment of the man who can, because his distance makes him untouchable to their struggles. And yet this is the very secret of power. To see beyond others is to rule them, because he who sees further can move with precision, while the rest stumble blindly. A chosen man, therefore, must embrace solitude not merely for protection, but for vision. Solitude clears the noise, removes the distractions, and sharpens the mind. It allows him to see the patterns hidden in chaos, to hear the truths buried beneath lies, to sense the direction of the winds before the storm arrives. Vision is not a gift given freely, it is the reward of distance. And distance can only be achieved when a man has the strength to step away from the crowd and walk his own path, even when the path is silent, lonely, and cold. Familiarity breeds contempt. The more often people see you, the more they begin to forget your value. The chosen man understands this and chooses distance, For isolation is not weakness, but a weapon. Respect does not grow from constant presence. It grows from scarcity, from mystery, from the silence that makes others wonder what you are thinking, what you are planning, what you are becoming. When you are always available, when your presence is given freely, you lower your worth in the eyes of others. They begin to see you as common, no matter how rare your talent may be. It is human nature to devalue what is abundant and to crave what is scarce. The chosen man, therefore, controls his presence. He does not flood the world with himself. He withdraws, he withholds, he allows absence to speak louder than presence. For in absence, the imagination of others works in your favor. They begin to wonder where you are, why you are gone, what you are preparing in the shadows. Mystery breeds reverence, and reverence feeds respect. Think of rulers throughout history. The wise king did not walk daily among the people, sharing bread and gossip as though he were one of them. No, he appeared rarely, at moments of significance, so that every appearance carried weight. When the people saw him, they bowed not simply to the man, but to the aura that distance had created around him. His presence was an event, not a routine. The chosen man adopts the same strategy. He knows that his silence makes his words more valuable. His distance makes his presence more powerful. Isolation also forces others to measure themselves against you without truly knowing you. When you are distant, you give them no opportunity to grow overly familiar, no chance to tear you down through constant exposure. They see only fragments, glimpses, shadows of your true self, and these fragments expand in their minds into something larger than life. They respect not just who you are, but the unknown possibility of what you might be. The less they know, the more they assume. And in that assumption, they grant you more power than you could ever demand outright. But distance is not merely about how others see you. It is also about how you control them. When people cannot reach you easily, when they cannot predict you or rely on constant contact, they begin to behave differently around you. They choose their words more carefully. They weigh their actions more heavily. They hesitate before speaking your name. This hesitation is respect. This caution is power. And power, once established, becomes a shield as much as a weapon. Isolation also prevents the decay that comes with overexposure. Consider the man who is always present in every gathering, always speaking in every conversation, always seeking to be noticed. At first, he may receive attention, but soon his presence becomes background noise. His voice loses its weight, his face loses its authority. He becomes just another figure among many, easily dismissed, easily forgotten. Contrast this with the man who speaks rarely but with precision, who appears seldom but with purpose. His every word is remembered, his every action magnified, his every step watched. Such is the effect of isolation. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary simply by withholding access. The chosen man does not mistake this for arrogance. He does not withdraw because he despises others, but because he understands human nature. He knows that respect is not given freely, it is cultivated. And to cultivate it, one must maintain a distance that others cannot easily cross. In this distance, respect takes root. In this space, authority grows. Isolation also protects the chosen man from becoming too entangled in the petty concerns of others. When you are always present, people begin to treat you as though you are one of them. They pull you into their trivialities, their quarrels, their distractions. But when you remain apart, they dare not treat you as common. Your silence shields you from their demands, and your absence elevates you above their noise. By walking apart, you command not only respect, but also freedom from the pull of the ordinary. And yet, the chosen man must balance this carefully. Too much absence becomes weakness. Too much silence becomes irrelevance. The art lies in knowing when to appear and when to vanish, when to speak and when to remain silent. Appear rarely, but always with impact. Speak little, but always with precision. Walk alone, but never so far that you disappear entirely. For the chosen man understands that isolation is not retreat. It is strategy. It is the deliberate act of shaping how others see you, ensuring that when they look upon you, they see not a man among men, but a figure set apart, one whose very distance commands their respect. To rely too much on friends, allies, or even family is to chain yourself to their weakness. A chosen man understands that every bond carries weight, and the more he leans on others, the more fragile he becomes. Dependence is not safety, it is captivity. When your strength is tied to the will or ability of another, you no longer stand on your own foundation. You balance on theirs. And what happens when that foundation crumbles? You fall with it. History offers countless warnings. Kings who relied on the loyalty of mercenaries found themselves betrayed when gold ran out. Leaders who placed their trust in allies discovered that allies are loyal only until a better opportunity arises. Even emperors who leaned too heavily on their bloodline found that brothers, cousins, or sons were often the very ones sharpening the knife behind their back. Dependence is a weakness because it gives another man the power to decide your fate. The chosen man walks alone because he knows that to be untouchable, he must be self-sufficient. Power that is borrowed can just as easily be taken back. Wealth that comes from another's hand can just as easily be withheld. Protection given by others can just as easily be withdrawn. When your power relies on someone else's favor, you are no longer powerful. You are a servant disguised as a master. But solitude teaches independence. When a chosen man withdraws from the comforts of dependence, he begins to cultivate his own strength. He learns to build, to endure, to think, to fight without leaning on another shoulder. And in doing so, he becomes untouchable. A man who has made himself whole cannot be easily destroyed, for there is nothing to pull from him that he has not already learned to provide for himself. Think of the man who always needs advice before he can decide. Such a man is never truly free, for he is ruled by the counsel of others. Or consider the one who cannot function without constant approval. He becomes a slave to the opinions of the crowd, adjusting his every move to please those who secretly laugh at his weakness. Dependence is not only material. It is mental, emotional, spiritual. It is the disease of needing others to tell you who you are, what you are worth, or what you must do. The chosen man rejects this disease. He decides for himself, even if the decision isolates him. Dependence also creates chains of obligation. When you rely on others, you owe them. And what is owed eventually becomes demanded. You may think they stand beside you as equals, but they stand above you as creditors. Every favor becomes a debt. Every gift becomes a leash. And when you are bound by such leashes, how can you act freely? How can you move with the swiftness and decisiveness that power requires? You cannot. Your strength is no longer your own. It is borrowed, conditional, fragile. This is why the chosen man often appears cold or distant. It is not because he feels nothing, but because he refuses to give others the ability to hold him hostage through dependence. He chooses discipline over comfort, independence over reliance. He would rather endure the loneliness of self-sufficiency than the humiliation of being controlled by those on whom he depends. But there is another truth hidden here. Those who depend too heavily on others are not only weakened, they are despised. People respect the man who stands on his own feet. They may envy him, but they also fear him, for he cannot be controlled. On the other hand, the man who begs for help, who leans too heavily on allies, who cannot move without permission, is treated as a tool. He is tolerated only as long as he is useful, and discarded the moment his need outweighs his value. Power, therefore, demands independence. It demands the courage to cut the cords of dependence and stand alone, even when that path feels harsh and cold. The chosen man knows this, and though it costs him comfort, though it costs him easy companionship, he embraces it. For he would rather walk alone with his own strength than march with many whose strength is not his own. The final truth about walking alone is not weakness, but freedom. A chosen man is not bound by the chains of dependency that trap the ordinary. Most people cannot move an inch without the approval of others. They cannot eat, they cannot dress, they cannot act unless someone nods in agreement. They are slaves, even if they wear crowns. But the chosen man who dares to walk alone possesses a freedom that few will ever taste. He moves not according to the whispers of the crowd, but to the dictates of his own will. Niccolò Machiavelli, when writing to princes and rulers, understood that true power lies in independence. A prince who depends too heavily on friends, allies, or advisors becomes their prisoner. He may sit on the throne, but his decisions are shackled by their opinions. That is not rulership, but servitude in disguise. In the same way, a chosen man who seeks validation from others is no longer his own master. His mind becomes a puppet, pulled by the strings of approval and rejection. But when he walks alone, when he accepts the silence of solitude, he gains the strength to rule himself first, and then perhaps the world. Freedom is not given, it is seized, and it is seized by sacrifice. When you walk alone, you sacrifice the comfort of company, the safety of being surrounded, the soothing lies of companionship. You give up the illusion that others will save you, and in that sacrifice, you are reborn as someone unchained. You make choices not because they will be applauded, but because they are necessary. You act not to please, but to advance, and that is the essence of Machiavellian freedom, choosing utility over affection, necessity over comfort. This freedom also gives clarity. When you walk among the masses, their noise drowns your own thoughts. Their fears infect you, their weaknesses dilute your strength. You begin to doubt, not because you are wrong, but because their voices overwhelm you. But in solitude, the chosen man hears only himself. He sees the battlefield as it is, without the fog of other men's insecurities. He plans not for applause, but for results. This is why so many rulers, thinkers, and conquerors have chosen solitude as their companion. It gave them the sharpness of vision that the distracted multitude could never possess. There is also another form of freedom that solitude grants, the freedom to be unpredictable. Men bound by the crowd are predictable because they must bend to the rules of others. But a man who is alone, who owes no one loyalty except to his own ambition, is dangerous. He cannot be cornered by threats of exile or disgrace, for he has already accepted his separation. He cannot be manipulated by rewards or bribes, for his purpose is not driven by the approval of others. And it is this unpredictability that makes the chosen man feared, respected, and sometimes even worshipped. Machiavelli warned that those who are too entangled with the love of others will eventually be betrayed. For love is fickle, loyalty is fragile, and alliances are temporary. But a man who is free in his solitude cannot be betrayed, because he depends on no one to define him. That is the highest form of power, to be untouchable, not through strength of arms alone, but through strength of spirit. The chosen man must embrace this freedom not as a burden, but as a crown. He is not wandering aimlessly in solitude. He is carving his own path, free from the weight of the herd. He is not lonely, he is liberated. He is not abandoned, he has abandoned weakness. And while the world may look at him with suspicion, calling him cold or ruthless, in truth he is simply free. Free from the chains that bind lesser men, free from the illusions that keep them trapped, free from the cages they willingly build around themselves. For in the end, walking alone is not about isolation, it is about sovereignty, and sovereignty is the essence of power. So what have we uncovered in this journey through Machiavelli's Dark Wisdom? That to be a chosen man, to be one who rises above mediocrity, you must accept the price of solitude. You must understand that greatness demands separation, that the weight of power cannot be carried in crowded company, that loyalty is rare and fleeting, that isolation sharpens your strength, and that true freedom is found only when you owe nothing to the approval of others. Machiavelli did not write for the timid. He wrote for those bold enough to rule, cunning enough to survive and ruthless enough to accept the cold truths of human nature. Walking alone is not a curse, but a necessity. It is the mark of those destined for something greater than comfort, those who choose clarity over illusion, power over popularity, and sovereignty over servitude. Remember, this history does not remember the crowd. It remembers the individual, the one who had the courage to walk alone. And perhaps if you embrace this path, you too will not be forgotten.